Audio Jungle.
Decomposing body of elderly man found at home in Old Harbor. The decomposing body of an elderly man was found at his home on Burke Road in Old Harbor, St. Catherine on Sunday. He has been identified as 77-year-old Lindsay Toppin. Reports are that around 6:20 p.m., passerbys noticed a foul smell in the vicinity of Toppin residence. The police were summoned and upon arrival, his decomposing body was discovered. The scene was processed and the body removed. A post-mortem is now being conducted. The Old Harbor police are investigating. I ended up being a nameless, voiceless ghost. When Bob Marley's biopic One Love was released last year, the film sparked questions about whether the story accurately reflected the late reggae icon's life. The questions mostly stem from the absence of Sidney Breakspeare's storyline, which was a feature heavily spotlighted during the singer's life. More than a year after the film's release, Breakspeare has broken her silence on the film's representation of her, or the lack thereof, by stating she believes she became a nameless, voiceless ghost in the film. I think I ended up being a nameless, voiceless ghost. I'm not sure that Bob's single-mindedness of purpose and his edginess, that sharp edge that his character had, was captured, she shared in a television interview over the weekend. I think all you really had to do was tell the truth. That's all you really had to do, and you would have had a great movie, she said sadly, and it's not critically acclaimed, as everybody knows. And no, Mr. So, it was not critically acclaimed. Reflecting on the space she occupied in the film, as opposed to that which she occupied in the singer's life, the former Miss World said she felt the film was a disservice to her and the role she played in Marley's lifeline. I was in a relationship with Bob for 6 years at the end of his life, she said, also indicating that the movie also failed to adequately acknowledge several key players in the singer's life. I wasn't the only one, I think, who felt hard done by it to the film. There were other people in the story who were cut out at the last minute, Peter Tosh being one of them. I don't think we saw much of Skill Alan Cole, who we just lost, so it's kind of all condensed to a particular product, and I think there were many others who felt hard done by the end of it. Perhaps they, the movie creative directors, felt that all the women who had outside children with Bob, I actually should probably be grateful that I got a look in all of that, she continued, saying she was represented about 3 times during the movie, but the representation was nothing compared to the actual relationship that she shared. Bob's legacy had been part of the fabric of her life. Breakspeare's relationship with the late reggae legend is no secret. In fact, the former beauty queen had been subject of harsh criticism over the years of becoming involved with a married man. But as Breakspeare tells it, she has no regrets. I do not pursue Bob Marley, he pursued me, she shared, outlining that Marley himself revealed in interviews that he was not married and did not subscribe to the Western ways of life. I did come to know that he was in fact legally married. I think it was his mom that probably told me, but by then there was Damien and there was no turning back, Breakspeare continued in her candid TV interview. I couldn't send him, her son, back, so what are you going to do now? Maybe I was just more comfortable ignoring the truth, deluding myself, and you know how it is. Sometimes we ignore what we don't want to face, what we don't want to deal with. She then admitted that the story of her and Bob and the dynamics of their relationship is ancient history. Still, she would be more satisfied if said history were not altered. In my world, I don't want anybody trying to change history. It was what it was. I don't have fingers, toes, or hair on my head to count the number of interviews and films that I have been in about Bob and who he was and what he was all about, she shared. And I have never ever, not once in these years, solicited any of those journalists or filmmakers. They always found me, sought me out, and insist that they want to speak with me, and so I know it's not my imagination that I had a valid role to play in Bob's life. Breakspeare went on to share that as a beauty queen for society's upper class, she has been made the subject of backlash for much of her life. She shared that from the moment her relationship with a Rastafarian man became public, she has been the subject of harsh criticism. But having a front row seat to the megastar her son Damian Marley has turned out to be, Breakspeare is adamant that when all is said and done, she wouldn't have changed a thing. The rest of the world, I don't think they were horrified. Here was a rock star and a beauty queen. Who else is new? She questioned. When I look at the artist my son has become today, I wouldn't change anything. Health Ministry says internship program oversubscribed. The Health and Wellness Ministry says its medical internship program has been oversubscribed and it can only accommodate a limited number of interns. The ministry sought to clarify issues relating to internship placement after reports emerged that some overseas trained doctors were unable to secure internship. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisosa Mackenzie explains that approximately 500 persons applied for internship positions this year, with 70% being foreign medical graduates from over 100 different medical schools. According to the ministry, it has placed 258 medical graduates in internship positions this year in 3 intakes, January, March, and August, pointing out that the University of the West Indies remains the main source of incoming interns. The ministry stated that over the last few years, there have been a gradual increase in the number of foreign medical graduates applying for posts. These are persons from schools other than UA. 151 graduates from UWI were placed in internship programs for this year. Approximately 107 or 42% of interns placed in 2025 were graduates from foreign medical schools. Dr. McKenzie points out that the ministry can accommodate only a limited number of interns, and preference is given to Jamaicans who study locally or overseas on government scholarships. She says the program is being reviewed in a bid to increase the numbers and standardize the allotment to the hospitals. The ministry says it understands the concern raised by the request by graduates from medical programs for clarity on the process for selection for interns. It notes that spaces are determined by quality and financial factors. Meantime, the ministry advises that prior to starting overseas medical programs, persons should acquaint themselves with the licensing process in the country where they wish to practice. The ministry says the review of its processes will ensure that there is a better understanding of the process going forward.
We are oversubscribed as we are limited in the number of interns that we can take. Internship is a period of supervision that builds on the knowledge and exposure in medical school to prepare graduates to be able to practice fully as medical doctors. The internship program requires that the necessary supervision is in place and takes place in institutions that have been approved. We have been able to place just over 250 interns for the last 3 years in public hospitals. The university hospital also employs interns. In the selection process, preference is given to Jamaicans who have studied locally and overseas, and particularly those on Government of Jamaica scholarships, administered through the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. The number of medical schools from which the ministry received applicants have significantly increased. While in August we placed interns from 9 other medical schools than the University of the West Indies. In the batch of observers starting in September 2025, we have graduates from 22 medical schools, 5 in Cuba, 6 in China, 7 are offshore universities in the Caribbean, 1 in Mexico, and 3 in Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, and Georgia.
Alan Bernard seeks to make a meaningful impact as senator. Newly appointed opposition senator Alan Bernard says he is honored to join the Senate and is committed to making a meaningful impact in the lives of Jamaicans. My sojourn in the Senate will be about the people of Jamaica. It will be about giving a stronger voice to communities, young people, workers, and families who deserve better opportunities and a fair share of the country's progress, Bernard stated. Bernard said his work in the upper house will focus on advancing social justice with an understanding that social transformation must be hand in hand with economic transformation. It is about how we broaden the base of the local economy and adopt models that can best achieve this. I believe in an alternative economics, one that closely examines and rigorously interrogates the role of market force in driving change. Simply put, it is about how we use strong market principles to create economic, social, cultural, and environmental value, Bernard added. Bernard emphasized his determination to bring fresh ideas and bold advocacy to Parliament, ensuring that the Senate becomes a platform where people's concerns are championed and solutions are advanced. To subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.